Greetings to all the aspirants present out there. This is Chandigarh Civil Services. Aspirants, a dream does not become reality with magic. It becomes reality with the perseverance, determination, and hard work. As we all know that the UPSC has recently conducted the preliminary examination on 20th of May 2023. As we analyze the paper, we see that the geography has genominously contributed in the GS paper number 1. So in this particular session, we'll see how much many questions from the geography section were there with their solution part. So let's see the first question, which was in the UPSC paper, that is, which one of the following countries has been suffering from the decades of civil strife and food shortages and was in news in the recent past for its very severe famine. So options were Angola, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and Somalia. So we all are aware that since 1991, Somalia has been, that is the eastern part of Africa, has been under the severe famine. So the answer was very commonly understood. That is your Somalia. So the answer is your Somalia. That is your option number B. Next question, that is your consider the following countries. That is your Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania. And the question were, how many of the above mentioned countries share a land border with the Ukraine? So that means he asked how many countries are sharing the border. It is saying option A, only 1, option B, only 3, option C, only 4, and the option D is only 5. So those candidates who are completely acclimatized with the math section, they must be able to solve this question. So yes, your Hungary and your Romania, they are sharing the boundary with your Ukraine. So that means option A is correct. That is, only 2 countries are sharing the borders. Next, when we see this particular map, Ukraine is sharing the boundaries with your Russia, Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary. Then this particular, that is your, all these countries, they are sharing the boundaries. So that means this was very, very understood. Those candidates who prepare this particular map work with wholeheartedly must be able to solve this particular question. Let's see the next question. With reference to the Earth's atmosphere, which one of the following statement is correct? So your option A, that is total amount of insolation received at the equator is roughly about 10 times of that of received than the poles. When we analyze the question, it is clearly mentioned on the information which is available in your NCRTs. The question is asked based on that. But yes, when we completely dig into the options, we see not only the geographical aspect he asked, but yes, related to your science, that is your chapter light, he asked the question, and the amalgamation of the geographical aspect and your science, he asked in a very, very diplomatic manner. So option first, that is your total amount of insolation received at the equator is roughly 10 times, but we all are aware that it is around 2 to 3 times, not exactly the 10 times. Then infrared rays constitute roughly 2/3 of the insolation. Yes, when we see that the insolation part, that is your incoming solar radiation and the outgoing terrestrial radiation, then infrared radiation undoubtedly constitute a certain portion of your insolation, but not exactly your 2/3. So that means UPSC has also played with the factual details also. Next, that is your option C, the infrared waves vapor that is your concentrated in the lower atmosphere. So that means ki infrared waves that is also that also absorb the water vapor. So yes, it is contributing in the greenhouse gases also. So yes, option C was your correct. But let's see option number D. The infrared waves are the part of the visible spectrum. This is related to your science of electromagnetic waves of solar radiation. So yes, we all know that it is not the part of the visible spectrum. As we know that visible spectrum is from around 400 to 700, but it is more than the 700. So that means the option C is the correct answer for this particular question. Let's see. Next question. Consider the following statement. That is statement 1. The soil in the tropical rainforest is rich in nutrients. Statement number 2. The high temperature and the moisture of the tropical rainforest cause dead organic matter in the soil to decompose quickly. So two statements were there. When we analyze these two statements, it is clearly related to your NCRT. That is the soil in the tropical rainforest is rich in the nutrients. But we all know that the tropical rainforest soil is undoubtedly, this is having a substantial amount of your nutrients. Why is it so? Because the soil is undergoing a leaching and weathering. So because of which the nutrients quantity has reduced. Next statement, the high temperature and the moisture of the tropical rainforest causes dead organic matter in the soil to decompose quickly. So yes, the tropical region, that is your torrid region, it is high temperature and high moisture that cause the dead organic matter to decompose quickly. So it is correct statement. So options were, which of the following is correct in respect of the above statement? That is, both statement 1 and the statement 2 are correct, and the statement 2 is the correct explanation for the statement 1. B option, both the statement 1 and 2 are correct, and the statement 2 is not the correct explanation for the statement 1. And option C is statement 1 is correct, but the statement 2 is incorrect. And option D, the statement 1 is incorrect, but the statement 2 is correct. So that means it is clearly understood that this is incorrect because this is not rich. So the word rich was playing with your option. This is just, the rich word is totally changing the whole question meaning. So that means it has a substantial, not rich. So that means the statement 1 is your incorrect, and yes, the statement 2 is your correct. So likewise, this option number D is the correct explanation for it. So that means this question, your statement number D has to be correct. Next question, that is, consider the following statement. First, statement number 1. The temperature contrast between the continent and ocean is greater during the summer than in winter. Next, statement 2. The specific heat of the water is more than that of the land surface. So when we see these two statements, then clearly when see, this is highly debatable questions. Why? Because when we look into the statement 2, the specific heat of the water, undoubtedly, it is more than that of the land surface. Specific heat is the amount of the temperature which is required in order to raise the temperature. So that means, yes, the specific heat for the water is more than that of the land surface. And we all aware that in geography, there is a particular concept, that is, land is liberal, but the water is conservative. So this question is highly debatable, whether the statement this is to be considered correct or not, because whether he's asking the question with respect to the whole earth, or that is your northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere. So likewise, the statement A and D can be considered to be the probable answer for this particular question. Let's see the next question. Consider the following statement, that is your in a seismography, P waves recorded earlier than the S waves. Yes, this is your NCRT. In a geography, in a seismograph, P waves recorded earlier. Yes, that's why it is called as a primary waves. Second statement, in the P waves, the individual parts vibrate to and fro in the direction of the wave's propagation, whereas in the S waves, the particles vibrate, and that is your up and down at a right angle to the direction of wave propagation. So yes, both the statements related to this particular question is correct. So that means your option number C is your correct. That is your, both 1 and 2 are correct. Next question, let's see. That is, with reference to the coal-based thermal power plant in India, consider the following statement. Your first statement is, none of them uses seawater. None of them is set up in the water-stressed district. None of them is privately owned. So how many of the above statement are correct? Yes, when we see or when we look at into these, then yes, they are using your seawater, and yes, their location is located in the water stress. But he's asking, he added the word, that is your none, according to which these all statements are your incorrect. So that means That is your, so which of the following are correct? That is your option D, that is your none. So that means these all statements are your incorrect. Let's see your next question. Consider the following pairs. The reason often mentioned in the news and the reason for being why they were in the news. So first is your North Kivu and Ituri, that was in the news. This is the region, the war between your Armenia and Azerbaijan. Next is your this particular Nagorno and Karabakh insurgency in the Mozambique, and Kherson and Zaporozhye, that is a dispute between Israel and Lebanon. So when we see, if you are completely or continue with your current affair, so this was a very direct question. That is your North Kivu and Ituri. This was not in Armenia, that is your Congo. And yes, they shuffled the option. So this particular is related to the Armenia and Azerbaijan. And yes, Kherson and Zaporozhye, that is related to your Russia and Ukraine. When we see the Russia and Ukraine, then these all regions are Kherson, and these all are related to your Ukraine. So yes, Ukraine and Russia, which was prominently in the news. If you're aware about the map work, then it's a very, very low hanging fruit. Next, let's see. Consider the following statement. That is your Jhelum River passes through the Vular Lake. Yes, Jhelum River passes through the largest freshwater lake of the India. That is in the Srinagar and your Jammu and Kashmir. So likewise, this statement is correct. Next, Krishna River directly feeds the Koleru Lake. Again, they played with this word, that is your directly. Not directly, but yes, indirectly, it feeds the Koleru Lake. So yes, this particular statement is wrong. Next, meandering of the Gandak River formed the Kanvar Lake. Yes, this particular lake is a residual oxbow lake. Yes, and it's a part of the Gandak River, which is a tributary of your Ganga. So that means this statement, third statement, is correct. And he's asking how many of the statement given are correct. So yes, your statement number 1 and statement number 3 is your correct. So B option, that is your only 2 statements related to this question is your correct. Let's see your question. Next question, that is, consider the following pairs. Again, he asked a very factual detail, that is your related to the port. First is your Kamalsar port. This is the first major port in India registered as a company. So yes, this was registered. This is the first port which is registered in the Company Act of 1956 in 1999. So that means this particular port is correct, and that is named as an Ennore port also. Next statement, Mudra port, largest privately owned port in India. So yes, this is also correct, which is lies in the Gujarat. And Visakhapatnam, related to the Visakhapatnam, he asked the largest container port in India. Yes, it is one of the container port, but this is not the largest, as the largest is your Jawaharlal Nehru port. So according to which he asked, choose how many of the above pairs are correctly matched. So yes, your option 1 and 2, they are correctly matched. So that means only 2 pairs are correct. So this was a very factual and quite very direct questions which he asked. So that means most of the math related question he's asking, and yes, amalgamating with the current affair also. Next, when we see this particular map, this is clearly mentioned in your NCRTs. That is your, the port lies on the eastern and your western port. So this is very, very important question which he asked. Next, your consider the following statement. He asked a certain statement, that is, India has more arable area than China. So yes, maximum portion of the China lies in the desert region. So yes, according to that, this statement is correct. Second statement, the proportion of the irrigated area is more in India as compared to the China. So yes, when we talk about the irrigated area, it is close to around 48%, whereas in the China, it is around 42%. And yes, third statement is your, the average productivity per hectare in Indian agriculture is higher than that in China. So this is your wrong. So according to which he asked how many of the above statement are correct. So yes, your 2 statement, that is your statement number 1 and statement 2 is correct. So only 2 statements are correct. So likewise, your option B is the correct answer for this particular question. Let's see your next question. That is, which of the following is the best example of repeated falls in sea level giving to a present day extensive marshland? So your First is your Bhitarkanika mangroves. Next is your Markham salt pans, Naupoda swamp, and Run of Kutch. So yes, your answer is your Run of Kutch. Very direct question he asked. Next question is your consider the following statement. Again, map-based question. He asked, Amarkantak Hills are at the confluence of Vindhyas and Satpura range. So this is not correct because Satpura and these are the parallel ranges, which is lies. So this statement is clearly wrong statement. Next, Bilirangam Hills. This constitute the easternmost part of the Satpura range. No, this is the part of your Andhra Pradesh. So that means this statement is also wrong. Next is your Sechalam Hills constitute the southernmost part of the Western Ghat. No, this is not. This is the part of your Andhra Pradesh and this particular is the part of your Karnataka. So that means both the statement are your incorrect. And he asked how many of the above statements are correct. So that means none of the statements are correct. All the three statements are your wrong. So that means he's asking your some questions directly from the map and yes, some the amalgamation of your current affairs and your static portion. Next, your with reference to the India's projects on the connectivity, consider the following statement. First, East-West corridor under the Golden Quadrilateral, again clearly mentioned in your NCRT project, connect Dibrugarh and Surat. So this is incorrect. That is your, it is connecting your Porbandar and your Sachram. Fine. So that means this is your incorrect. Next, your trilateral highway connect More in Manipur. Yes, it is correct. And Chiang Mai in the Thailand by Myanmar. So yes, this particular statement is little debatable also. Some consider it to be correct. Next statement, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar economic corridors connect Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh with Cunningham in China. So when we look into, this is not connecting your Varanasi, but your Kolkata. So that means likewise, if we consider this particular statement, this is also debatable also. But when we look into the trilateral map of this particular project, then it clearly mentioned that is your Mysore is there. So that means according to which this statement has to be incorrected. Otherwise, because it's mentioned that is your this particular, but yes, sometimes it is considering this to be correct also. So that means if these all statements can be considered your none also, and option A, that is your only one, that is your this statement can be considered to be a correct. So again, this is a debatable question. Next, consider the following trees, that is your jackfruit, mahua and teak. Which of the, how many of the above are the deciduous trees? So yes, it is very clearly mentioned NCRT, that is your this teak and mahua, both are your deciduous and this is your evergreen. So that means only 2 is the correct answer for this particular question. Let's see your next question. That is, which of the following is the part of the Congo Basin? We all are aware that Congo Basin is spreading in the 6 countries and yes, Cameroon is one of that. So your correct answer is your option number A. Next, let's see. Consider the following pairs, that is your object in the space and its description. So first is your Cepheus. It's a giant cloud of dust and gas in space. Second is your nebula, the stars which brighten and dim periodically. Again, there is a shuffling of your option is there. That is, when we talk about the nebula, yes, in the class 11th, it is clearly mentioned, and the 6th class NCRT also, that is, it is the giant cloud of the dust and gas in space. So that means this statement is incorrect, and this is also. When we talk about this is a star which brighten and dim periodically. And statement 3, that is your pulsar, neutron star that are formed when the massive star run out of the fuel and collapse. When it collapses into itself and led to the formation of your black hole. So yes, statement 3 is your correct. And he's asking how many of the above pairs are correctly matched. So yes, only one pair, that is your statement 3 is correct. That means option A, that is your only one statement is your correct related to this particular question. Let's see your next question. So that means most of the question we are done. So this is about your geography analysis. Aspirants, it's a very common adage that success is not final and the failure is also not final. It is the continuity or it is the courage to continue that will count. So all the aspirants who are able to qualify or able to cross the cutoff, it is the high time, or it is the time to tighten your seatbelt for the further preparation. So this is about your geography analysis. So stay tuned and connected. And yes, all the best for your next stage also. Thank you.